Good evening and welcome to the January 15th, 2025 Mercer Island Arts Council regular hybrid meeting. The time is now 5:31. I'm Elizabeth Mitchell, Chair of the Arts Council. Tonight's Arts Council meeting is in person at the Mercer Island Community and Event Center, and we're also using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The Zoom video of this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel later this week. Public audience members may be listening to the meeting by telephone or online. Welcome to all, and thank you for joining us tonight. Counselors, please ensure that your microphones are turned on for the roll call, and if participating remotely, please have your cameras turned on as well. Will city staff please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Chair Mitchell.
Present.
Councillor Scone.
Here.
Councillor Harrington.
Here.
Councillor Young.
Present.
Councillor Rajagopal.
Here.
And Vice Chair Becker.
Here.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Our first item of business is public appearances. This is the opportunity for anyone to speak to the Arts Council about any item, except items requiring a public hearing, any quasi-judicial matters or campaign-related matters. City staff, has anyone signed up for appearances?
No, Chair.
Thank you. There are no appearances, and we will move on. The first item on the agenda is the staff liaison report and planning schedule update. We welcome Katie Herzog, Recreation Supervisor, and our delightful staff liaison.
Thank you so much and Happy New Year to the Arts Council. We will get started with our department report. All right, a few project updates. The city received more than 220 responses to the survey on the Clark and Groveland Beach Park uses. So we're really happy with that input. At an upcoming city council meeting, the project team will present the site conditions and proposed public engagement plan for the planning process. You can follow along with these two beach park projects at mercerisland.gov/CGMP. Work has continued to replace the aging play equipment at Mercer Island Parks. Permits for Roanoke Park have been issued and the construction contract is being finalized. Staff anticipate construction will begin at the end of the Q1 of 2025. And the First Hill Park playground equipment will be delivered next month. Those permits are being submitted and construction is also planned for this year. The Dean's Children's Park Play Area, later this year, the city will kick off the process to begin vision plans that integrate the play area, the park entrance, restrooms, and other site amenities. So there is a website at the bottom, the mercerisland.gov/playground replacements for all further information. This month, the city reinstalled Now We Are One by Philip Levine at First Hill Park. This sculpture was removed in 2020 so that the base could be replaced. We want to thank our park maintenance team who prepped the site for reinstallation and to Artwork Fine Art Services for completing the install. For more information on this piece and all of our art, you can visit the Story app, which has all of our pieces and information on the artists. Hopefully everyone has seen the Story app already. All right, a few upcoming events. The city has partnered with the Mercer Island Chinese Association to bring a Lunar New Year celebration to the community center. This will take place on February 2nd from 10 to 2. They, as you can see, have a lot of great activities planned, photo booths, games, lantern making. It is a free event, but they are requiring tickets in advance, which you can get by visiting this QR code, or we have the information on our special events webpage. The Myval Harmony of Color annual member show is now up at the community center and will be up until February 28th. We will have the reception on Saturday, February 8th from 12 to 2. Everyone is welcome to join that, or please at least come and see the art that is hanging in the center. We're having our second annual Senior Resource Fair on March 1st from 10 to noon here at the center. We are currently accepting vendor applications and invite the community to come check out this resource fair, which is hopefully a one-stop shop for seniors and their families to stay active, healthy, safe on the island, and also support services, mental health care, and volunteer opportunities will all be available at this fair. And just quickly, I wanted to wrap up 2024. We ended the year with a slew of holiday events that were all very fun and well attended by the community. We had our annual tree lighting. We partnered with the Chamber of Commerce to hold the Holiday Makers Market here at the community center. We had a family movie night and holiday party. You may recognize the Santa in this photo. He's also sitting next to me here. We had the Argosy Christmas ship join us at Luther Burbank Park, and Shabbat Mercer Island held their menorah lighting as well. So we had a great turnout and a lot of fun at these holiday events. We are currently, as of today, recruiting a new Arts Council member. We had one member who has joined a different commission for the city. Applications are being accepted through February 25th. And it's an online application, which can be found at mercerisland.gov/BC, or you can contact our city clerk if you have any additional questions, but please help us spread the word to anyone who you feel would make a good Arts Council member. All right, and this is our Arts Council planning schedule, a quick glimpse at what we have for 2025. We have our special meeting that is planned for February 10th, which is a continuation of our Art in Public Places 6-year work plan. Sarah will talk more about that this evening. We have our regular meeting on April 16th. We have a July 16th regular meeting scheduled, as well as October 15th. For that July meeting, staff is recommending that we think about changing that to June. July is a very busy month here for us with events and programs. It can be a very busy month for you all as well. So in April, we will finalize a decision on whether we'll move to June or not, but please think about if that works better for your schedule versus keeping that July 16th date. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next item of regular business is to review and consider approving the minutes from the October 16th, 2024 regular meeting and the November 18th, 2024 special meeting. Counselors, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from both of those meetings.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. There is a motion by Suzanne and a second by Irene. Counselors, please turn on your microphones, and will city staff please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you, Chair. Chair Mitchell,
Approve.
Counselor Rajagopal,
Approve.
Vice Chair Becker,
Approve.
Counselor Young,
Approve.
Counselor Harrington,
Approve.
Counselor Scone.
Approve.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The motion passes and the minutes are approved. The third item of regular business tonight is the 6-year work plan for Art in Public Places progress. And for that, we're going to welcome back Sarah Bluvis, our CIP project manager.
Good evening, Arts Council, and Happy New Year. Just go ahead and share my screen. All right, can you see this presentation? Fantastic. All right, so Happy New Year. Happy to see you all here in 2025. We are back again to talk about the 6-year work plan for the city's public art program. We are nearing the finish line, so hopefully I won't be back too many more times to talk with you about planning for public art. We'll actually get to start implementing some public art here soon. So here's our agenda for tonight. I know Katie mentioned the special meeting on February 10th. We're going to talk about that at the top of the agenda tonight. I feel like By the end of these conversations, we always forget to do the next steps. So I put them at the beginning tonight. And then after that, we will launch back into our discussion of draft plan materials. You received a whole host of materials in your packet tonight, which we are going to try our best to get through. We'll start with the draft guidelines for administering the Mercer Island Public Art Program. That's one we haven't had a chance to talk about in a while. And then we'll move on to talking about the public art project timeline and updated project opportunities list. And if we can get to it, without keeping you all here too late, we'll round out with talking about the updated draft of the work plan. So here are the kind of final steps in this public art planning process. We've been working together since we kicked this off last April in 2024, and we are nearing the end of the process. So tonight we're going to collect hopefully some final feedback on all the plan documents. And then in February or maybe March, we will hold another special meeting to review the final draft documents. I will be back in April at the regular meeting to seek the endorsement on the plan document. And then from there, city staff will take any materials necessary to the city council for final approval. We are still figuring out what that process is going to look like formally. I will definitely have clear and concrete next steps for you on April 16th. But for now, just know that we will be going to the city council sometime later this year. And then after city council and hopefully Q2 of this year and beyond, we will move into implementing the work plan that you all have spent so much time working on. So my first question tonight is scheduling our final, hopefully, workshop for this process. So we'd originally proposed February 10th. I had heard from some folks that that is not the best date. So I wanted to throw out another option, which is Wednesday, March 19th. That is the third Wednesday in March. So that would kind of keep you on your third Wednesday schedule. We would not do both workshops. We would just do one. So I'm going to pause there, and just what I need, Chair, is a thumbs up majority for either February 10th or March 19th to bring us all back together to close this all out.
Wonderful, thank you. Can we stop sharing the screen so I can see our online counselors for
Yes.
a minute? And can I have a thumbs up vote for, I guess, thumbs up for February or thumbs up for March? Please don't thumbs up both. So thumbs up for February. Okay, thumbs up for March. It's unanimous, Sarah.
Great. Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you for making that easy. All right. Look at that. We're already cruising. Okay, so the first element of the plan that we're going to talk through tonight are the guidelines for administering the City of Mercer Island Public Art Program. I will just refer to them as the guidelines going forward. This is included as Exhibit 6 in your packet. I'm starting here tonight because, as I mentioned at the top, we haven't touched on the guidelines in a while, so I want to make sure that we're able to get through feedback that I've received from Arts Council members over the past couple of months, and then hopefully get any final feedback from you all to refine the draft that I'll bring back in March. So I'm going to start with just kind of an overview of each process that is outlined in the guidelines, again in Exhibit 6. And then I received, I think, 4 or 5 questions from Arts Council members ahead of this meeting. So I'll walk through those questions and pause after each one to kind of open it up for discussion or additional questions. And then I'll close out this topic with just another opportunity to provide feedback. So the first process that is included in the guidelines is what we're calling developing a public art project. And this is really the process for seeking approval and launching a public art commission. So within the context of the overall work plan, this is the process we'll use to develop a project that's identified for that 25-30 project timeline that we'll talk about a little bit later. This is where we'll, get a committee together, develop the RFQ, figure out what parameters we want, figure out, are we going to do an open call for artists? Do we want to only, solicit artists from the Northwest? All of those little details that'll go into developing the project that would then need to be formally approved by the city council. This applies to really any commission for an original work of art that will use 1% funds for acquisition. So these are projects like the Mercer Island Medallions project, which is directly tied to a capital project. Or, if you wanted to do a mural project that isn't attached to any sort of capital program, but would use 1% funds, this is the kind of the process we would use to develop that project, to seek formal approval from the city council to move forward. The next process that's identified in the guidelines is the process to evaluate submittals for artist or artwork selection. So once we've developed a project, or once we've received maybe a request for a public art donation, this would be the process that we would go through to really evaluate either that artist or the artwork that has been submitted for approval for really any permanent or temporary display in public space. So, think about this as this is the time when, okay, we've gotten the approval for the project, and now we're going to go out there and find the artist or the artwork. So that's where we would get the selection committee together. They would review submittals and make a formal recommendation to the Arts Council, which then the Arts Council would recommend to City Council. And then city staff would move forward with getting the final approval from the council. We also have in there a process we're calling accepting community-initiated project proposals. These probably could have all had shorter names, but that's just the cross we have to bear on this one. So this is, I think, maybe an offshoot of developing the public art project proposal. So this is the idea when, an arts council member, an individual arts council member, or a community organization, an individual resident comes to the Arts Council and has a proposal for displaying permanent or temporary art in a public space. This is really the one where, it's not necessarily tied to a capital project. It's not necessarily a formal commission for art, but it's a project or robust proposal that's been put together by the city or by the community or by someone outside the city that needs to be evaluated. We've never really had a formal process for evaluating community-initiated public art projects. So I put an example up there, the Prairie of Possibilities exhibit, which was mounted in Mercerdale Park in 2021. If we had had this process at that time, we would have used it to evaluate the Prairie of Possibilities proposal, and that would have given a little more structure and accountability to the choice to move forward with that project. Like the kind of permanent public art projects, the commissions initiated by the city or public art donations that come through, these projects would be eventually kind of subjected to the same evaluation process that those projects are. This is really just the step of like, okay, a community group has come forward with a proposal. What are we, Arts Council, recommending we do with it? Are we going to add it to our project opportunities list because we like the idea, but it's not a right fit for our priorities right now? Does it align completely with our priorities and we want to elevate it to the public art project timeline and work on it immediately? Do we want to reject it? Those types of things. This process is meant to help with that. It's also, although within the process itself, it's not fully articulated, but it does kind of open the door for the idea that you all have talked about before of kind of doing either maybe an annual call for proposals or kind of more of a formal call out to the community for specific public art projects. So, if we did elect to do a formal call every year for proposals, that would go out to the community and it would be kind of brought through this process to then be incorporated into the public art work plan. And then finally, there's the process for deaccessioning public art, which I think we're all familiar with since we did deaccession a series of street name inlays last year. This is the process for withdrawing a work or works from the public art collection. So this applies to any work, including commissions, donations, works of art bought outright by the city, but not necessarily commissioned. Anything that has been formally accessioned into the public art collection is eligible for deaccession. Okay, so like I mentioned, I received a few questions from Arts Council members ahead of this meeting. So I wanted to walk through those. There are 5, so I have 2 slides of them. I'll go through each one. I'll pause and then go to the next one just to make sure if the council member who put forward the question has anything else they want to share, and or if other council members want to provide input or ask clarifying questions. So the first question in the matrix came from council member Rajika Paul, and her question was about just the guidelines in general. So she asked, is the guidelines a separate document that will be valid extending beyond the 6-year planning period? So you've probably noticed that within the plan document included in your packet, the guidelines are attached as an exhibit. So our answer is yes, the guidelines are a standalone document and administrative tool for public art. They'll live beyond the 6-year planning period. They can be evaluated outside of the 6-year planning period. They're really kind of a standalone policy document, but we as staff felt it would be helpful to attach them as an appendix to the overall plan document, since the plan really is has really evolved into kind of, a repository or a handbook for the overall public art program. So I will stop there and see if anybody has additional questions or comments on this one.
I can't see the online members, but are there any online counselors that have questions or comments?
I see no hands on my end.
Okay, perfect. Anyone in person? Do you have any questions? I think we're good. Thank you, Sarah. We can move on to the next one.
Okay, great. The next comment was also from Councilmember Rajika Paul, and it's about the topic of implementation. So she said, I did not find the guidelines regarding the monitoring and acceptance of the artwork after the artist is selected. Sometimes the progress might be long. Do you think it would be good to set up some guidelines for this aspect? So the element that Councilmember Rajagopal is referring to is within the existing guidelines for acquisition, there is a section about implementation. And all of the tasks the tasks outlined in that section are really administrative tasks that are currently carried out by city staff and will continue to be carried out by city staff. So these are activities like contracting with the artist, monitoring the construction, when we get into installation, making sure the artist has delivered all of the paperwork that they need to regarding maintenance and that kind of thing. It doesn't really have anything to do with the design elements. All of that is really, developed through the actual design process with the Arts Council. So these are more the administrative tasks. So that's why we had removed them initially, because they are kind of just more everyday kind of tasks that we as staff would do. But we definitely can document them here in the guidelines if the Arts Council feels that would be beneficial. And if so, we would add them into the final draft we'll bring back in March. We'll stop there and see if there's any comments or questions, strong feelings about adding those administrative elements back into the guidelines.
Did you have a comment?
I just want to thank you, Sarah, for clarifying it. I think the city will do a great job to do all the following implementation process. I don't think it's necessary to put more guidance on that. I would recommend, I think you would do like when certain process milestones, the city staff could share those process with the Arts Council on our regular or special meetings. Thank you.
Okay, were there any other comments on that? All right, thank you.
All right, so the next one, also from Councilmember Rajak Paul, is about donation acceptance. So she had asked, how about accepting the donation of artworks to the city? The draft plan touches this topic under the section about appraisal, but appraisal might just be one aspect of a donation. And then she also called out that within the city code related to the Arts Council, one of your duties is reviewing the suitability and advising on the acceptance of artwork intended as gifts to the city. So I think this is a great catch. I was talking with Recreation Manager Ryan Daly this week after I was looking back through the guidelines. And I think the guidelines aren't super apparent or clear on this one. My intention was that the selection criteria, so that section evaluating submittals for artist artwork selection, would be used to evaluate potential donations of artwork. So the city at a high level has a process for accepting donations. That's anything, you know, a bench donation for a park, funding for a different project, all these different things. And that high level process, if something was identified, okay, this is a work of art, then it would come to the Arts Council, and the process we would use to evaluate that is really that same kind of selection process, the same criteria as identified for like a public art commission. Does that provide clarity? I do think that the plan or the guidelines need to be updated a little bit to clarify that a little more, but does that seem adequate to the Arts Council when it comes to donations?
I'm fine either way. Thanks, Sarah. I think either way is fine, whether to clarify donation or just as implied. Thank you.
So are you proposing, Sarah, that we add just a clarifying point about it in the final draft? Is that what you're proposing that we do? Is that your suggestion?
Yeah, I think at most, I think that's all we would have to do. So it would be kind of a line, probably in kind of the introduction to the guidelines, and then in that the evaluation guideline itself, a little more information about what that specific process applies to, and just make sure that artwork donations or, you know, other requests for public art, that kind of thing. So it kind of covers that broader category of potential requests for art.
I think that's good, just to make sure that it's clarified and included. I think we've had several, you know, donations come through over the past few years, and while it may be a very generous offer, it's not always necessarily the most suitable thing. So I think it's just important to make sure that we're applying the same guidelines to donations, and if we need to have it stated in the final draft, that seems like a really good catch. So nice job. Any other comments or thoughts on that? Okay, moving on. Thank you.
Okay. There we go. Okay, two more questions. So Vice Chair Becker had a question about the selection panel makeup. He said, I thought we discussed removing general resident from the selection panel, given that at least 4 of the other people are already residents. So a resident with special interests, Arts Council member, other Board or Commission member, and a City Council member. Is there value in adding a resident who doesn't have a particular focus in art or that site? And I appreciate you bringing this up, Vice Chair Becker, because I think we did discuss removing I think right now it's called lay resident or lay person from the existing guidelines. And I think I didn't get full direction on that one. So now I am seeking full direction. Does the Arts Council support the recommendation to remove a general resident from the composition or makeup of the selection panel? I guess just looking for a thumbs up or thumbs down from the group for
Daniel,
discussion.
give a slight elaboration on your thought process behind that. I mean, I read what you wrote, but could you elaborate just a little bit more? Because I don't see a problem having a general resident on there per se. So I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't object to having a general resident on there and think that the person would hurt it. It's more that when we were looking last time at the medallions and we're trying to recruit people, and it's like, I guess, does anybody have a friend? Like we were focused on, can we find someone that is interested in Luther Burbank? Like, I think that's very important. Like, I just want to be clear to the public that are watching, we need someone there who's has interest in the site, or can we find an artist? Can we have someone from MyVal on it or whatever? I think we should have people who have a reason that they're interested in the project, and not having someone that we're saying basically that the only reason this person has interest is because they're a resident, but they're not interested in art and they're not interested in Luther Burbank. So well, how are we, what are we recruiting? So, I mean, and I would have no problem replacing it with maybe we should have 2 people who are interested in the site, or if it's a general resident, it's someone who has some interest in the site, rather than hey, does anybody have a friend who who is a resident and has time to do something that they're not interested in? That's
So
my
you're-
interpretation of it.
You're feeling that resident with special interest in the project covers it, and having a general resident is unnecessary and repetitive, basically. And
Yes.
yeah, okay. I am okay with removing the additional general resident. Can I get a show of thumbs for people that would like to approve that? Oh, did you have a comment first, Jonathan? Yes.
Yeah, so we're not going to have any qualifications for evaluating one of these people who's showing a special interest, right? It's just they express a special interest, so therefore they could be qualified then to join the discussion.
I believe that's my understanding of
They
how
don't
it's.
need a resume, have to prove their, bona fides or anything, just to show a genuine interest through just giving their opinion and contacting people, and but no professional evaluation of their qualifications.
Sarah, I'll go ahead and let you comment there.
No, I don't think so. Typically, how this has worked out in the process before, so like Daniel mentioned, for the Luther Burbank Medallions project, we asked a member of the Friends of Luther Burbank Park to participate, because that's an organization really involved with the park. Sometimes we might ask a neighbor, if there's a neighbor around the park or the site, that kind of thing. For trying to remember the banners we did in Town Center back in 2018, we asked a member of the Chamber of Commerce to sit on the selection panel, knowing that they have connection to Town Center. So, there would be no formal recruitment necessarily. It is kind of okay, well, who we as the Arts Council with staff, and if there's others involved with the development of the project, would kind of decide what kinds of people. Do we want to invite someone from the chamber? Do we know a neighbor of this part of Aubrey Davis Park who we want to recruit for the project, that kind of thing?
I mean, I think that the wording in the selection, the procedure leaves it very open. We have selection panel may consist of, and then we also have other individuals as appropriate at the bottom, which I think leaves us plenty of room if a certain project would require some additional, feedback or, for a selection panel. So if there's no other, yes.
Sorry,
Daniel.
can I just say one last thing? I mean, again, I have no objection to us including people. I think that the last time that we did it, it felt like we thought we had to find an extra person. And so we went out of our way to find someone. And in the event that we think it's important for people, I appreciate that it says it at the end, if we think that we want more people, by all means, we should try to include people. I don't want to exclude people from participating. I just don't want us to feel forced to go out and find an extra person just to check this box.
Right, and I think that you make a good point that just, somebody off the street who, happens to live on the island but has no interest in said project isn't necessarily going to be the best type of feedback. So I like the idea that it's a resident with a special interest in the project, whatever that special interest may be.
Yeah.
So I am okay with removing the wording. Can I get a thumbs up to remove? Yeah, thumbs down if you don't want to remove. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take out general resident. No, Ryan. No. Not you. Can't. Sorry. Yes, Ryan.
Thank you, Chair. I want to speak just for a second, if possible, on my role as the Parks and Recreation Commission liaison and just bring back a bit of information from the last meeting we had with the Parks and Recreation Commission, where that might be kind of pertinent to this discussion on the panel. As you'll recall, the Arts Council recommended to the Parks and Rec Commission to include public art as a approved use within the park zone. And that, from everything I could tell from the meeting with the Parks Commission, that was agreeable. One of the questions did start to come up about the regulations around that, size, things of that nature, and also what that process is for evaluating. At least one of the Parks Commissioners demonstrated an interest in the Parks Commission having a role in that. I'm bringing that forward just for the Arts Council to think about. I will remind the Arts Council, though, that it is in your charter and your purview to establish the guidelines. That is not a role of the Parks and Recreation Commission. So, and they haven't provided a formal recommendation or anything along those lines for you to review, but just wanted to highlight that. And they'll be discussing the park zone over at least the next 2 meetings in February and March. So they're not quite ready to make a decision yet, and we can always host a joint meeting if so desired by the Arts Council and Parks Commission as well. But I just wanted to bring that info forward just so that you're all aware of the conversations happening on the other side of the table as a result of the recommendation that was brought forward by the Arts Council. So thank you.
Thank you, Ryan Daly, Recreation Manager. I will note that the procedure also includes other Mercer Island Board or Commission members based on the project scope and location. So we already have guidelines and wording in there that would include recruiting the other, board members from different, or other members from different boards. Any other thoughts or comments before we move on? Thank you.
Okay. I guess before I jump back into the presentation, I will say too, since Ryan brought forth that information, we also have, from even the beginning of the process to develop the public art project, we've included kind of opportunities for others to be a part of that. So it wouldn't necessarily just be the Arts Council, again, developing the parameters for that project. It would be, as we get into it, what organizations, what individuals, what experts make the most sense to help us craft that. That's everyone from members of a design team for a capital project, if we're working, on the Dean's Play area, and of course, Parks and Recreation Commission members with their connection to the park and everything. So I do think we've built in a lot of opportunity to extend the groups and individuals who participate in the process from the very beginning. So I think if we have the opportunity to share more of that with the PRC, that would be great. All right, back to it. Okay, so one more question about guidelines that we received before, and then we'll open it up. And this was from Councilmember Young about deaccession. So she said, introduce a requirement for public consultation before deaccessioning. This could ensure decisions are community-backed and transparent, as well as provide info on whether the community desires something like a previous work or something totally new in that specific location. I think this is a good idea. I know, through the process of deaccessioning the street name inlays, we involved the Mercer Island Historical Society pretty late in the game. So, for very site-specific artworks, much loved works of art, those types of things, it likely would be a good idea to involve the community discussion a bit earlier in the process. But I wanted to open it up to the Arts Council again and see, of course, let Hannah, if you want to speak more to this, and or anybody else who is interested in sharing an opinion.
I had a clarifying question on that, but Hannah, would you like to begin since it was your question?
You can go ahead if you had something in mind.
My question would just be, how would we implement that process and procedure? And if we make it a required thing, where does that fall? Does that fall onto staff to implement it? And what process would we go through? I think that's an important consideration before deciding if we wanted to add something like that.
Yeah, so initially I realized it was worded as more of like a recommendation, a stricter recommendation, that it was initially just like a conceptual question and not a conceptual question, like sort of seeing if that was something to be considered, just because I think it is valuable to practice that transparency with the public and sort of recognize, like, although I do recognize like the budget constraints and like concerns that may come with needing a more faster and streamlined approach, but I'm not sure about that requiring it strictly necessarily, but rather like throwing out a survey or yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not it was just
Helpful, yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's actually a good suggestion, and I love the idea of public input. My question was more for staff. What would that look like, and how would it be implemented? And is it something that would be reasonable to add?
I think that it is reasonable. I think where I would see an element of gauging community input about specific works that might be a deaccessioned would fit best is in the kind of that annual or semi-regular review of the collection that we as staff should be doing, but will be doing a little more frequently following, you know, the conclusion of this process. And that element kind of includes, you know, flexibility for who to consult about potential deaccessioning. So because we mentioned it before, the street name inlays, you know, I talked with the artist, I talked with the streets engineers, that kind of thing. And it would be very easy to say, and any interested community groups or individuals. So add in the Historical Society or the Chamber of Commerce, that kind of thing, depending on the location. So I think that would really come before staff make the formal recommendation to the Arts Council to deaccession something. So we've made sure that like we got as much input, and I would say if it's something like, I'm just going to say it because it came to mind, like we were going to deaccession the dragon. We're not doing that community. The dragon's not going anywhere, but you know, that's a sculpture that has tremendous public value and tremendous love. So then that I could see doing a survey, like, you know, the dragon's falling apart and we can either replace it or deaccession it. What would you like us to do, community? And that could help inform the recommendation. But again, the dragon's in great shape. He's
Like,
not
the
going
dragon's
anywhere.
actually okay, right, Sarah? I don't
Yes.
like the example at all.
Yes, he is more than okay.
Okay, so I think it's important. So do you not feel that by let's see, it said, I just lost it. Oh, I guess seeking approval includes messaging to the public. So do you want more formal wording in there about seeking feedback from community? Is that
Yeah,
something that would be valuable?
I think where I would add it in would be more, again, at the beginning process. So before the staff come, when we're doing our evaluation,
Okay.
say, you know, we've talked to the artist, we may talk to individuals and experts, including the artist, a conservator. We may also talk to individuals, community members, or organizations that, you know, are interested in the specific work of art. So I think that if you all are open to that, you want a little more public input, to go into the recommendation that staff would make to deaccession, we can adjust, I can update the guidelines as they're written now and bring them back in March for a final read through and approval.
Shall we do a thumbs up, thumbs side, thumbs down, thumbs up, you'd like her to add wording, thumbs side, you don't really care, and thumbs down, you don't want any wording added. Okay, great.
Okay.
That was a go, Sarah. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so those were the last of that was the last question that we received ahead of time on the guidelines. So now I just want to open it up to everybody else. If you had additional feedback on the guidelines, concerns, things that were missing, I'm happy to have that discussion now.
I just want to thank you for all of the hard work and the entire Arts Council. I think we've been putting a lot into this over the past few months, so it's nice seeing it come together. And from my perspective, things look really great. I don't have any additional feedback at this time, but I will be happy to open it up to the rest of the members of the Arts Council if anyone else has any thoughts or comments. Yes, Vice Chair Becker.
I don't have anything major. I sent a couple comments to Sarah beforehand, and I will echo the chair's comment that this was great and I appreciate all the work that you did for this. I just guess I wanted to comment on the one thing that you asked a question about in here that I didn't respond to by email, which was about the pillars that's in this document, right? Whether we want it to be weighted equally. And my opinion on that is I'd probably weight them equally. Like maybe there's an argument to not be weighting them equally, but like there's probably pros and cons for how that would work. And so my personal opinion is, since we're just getting this going, I would probably weight them all the same for now. But if somebody has like a specific reason why they think we should do something different, I'm certainly open to that.
Thanks, Daniel. I saw that as well, and I wouldn't know how we would weight them if we didn't make them equal. So I think that, yes, at this point in time, I think equally seems, but does anyone else have any thoughts or feedback on that they'd like to share?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I wouldn't know how to slice and dice that either. So
No, just on that, the thought I had afterwards is that it could be really project specific too. Like maybe you get a project that you're developing and you decide like, oh wow, actually aesthetic is really, really important to us on this one. So then we could spend a little time while developing the project of saying, okay, we're gonna weight this one more than the others and figure out what that looks like. But I think there's enough flexibility within the process right now to be able to do that if you wanted to.
And that was just the question I was going to ask is, as it stands now, do you feel that we need to add something in about how the pillars are weighted, as in, according to project? Do we want to actually put that wording in or just leave it out to leave it more open? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No. Let me look back at it between now and the final draft, and I think I could go either way. So I need to go back and look at it again and just figure out, do we need to be a little more explicit that it's actually pretty flexible?
That's fair. I think I like the idea, again, of keeping things open and flexible as to not paint yourself into a corner. And I think it would be very dependent on certain things. I mean, if the place is a very specific spot, you're going to put more weight on the place. And, so things like that. Or if we really want this piece of art, but it doesn't really matter where it goes on Mercer Island, you're not going to put as much weight on the place. So I think that just making sure those stay flexible, in my opinion, would be and that we give ourselves the room to be able to, make it according to the project. Anybody else? Yes.
I think the documents, now the updated document seems quite good to me. Just speaking, the last topic, I was thinking now in this, the selection criteria, whether we need to put the public safety or public safety somewhere. I know public safety is very apparent and it's a basic requirement, but I think sometimes the public artwork in the public place, especially if the children playing around, so maybe put there just as a reminder.
Thank you. Is that something that we can look at and come back with at the next meeting, or is it something you want to address now, Sarah?
I know we had the conversation about where public safety fits in a little bit ago when we were talking about the public art pillars. So I'll go back and look at the conversations we've had before and see if there's a good way to propose. I'm sure there is. I can't remember which one it fit in specifically when we were talking about it before.
Well, right now under connection, we have inclusion and accessibility, and it says, does the proposal provide a safe and inclusive public art experience for all? So, I mean, that to me feels like it touches on, or, it encompasses the safety factor. And obviously nothing is going to be approved to get built if it's not meeting safety requirements. So as of they are at the time that it was built, right? That was part of having to, deaccession the street inlays. So, I feel like that covers it
Okay.
from my perspective, but I don't know if anyone else feels like there needs to be better wording or different wording included in the guidelines.
Well, thanks. I think it's good.
You think it's good?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but it's a good question. It's
Yeah.
important. Yeah, I know we've had that conversation. I remember there was a whole thing about the Luther Burbank project and to get small children getting trapped. It was like my first arts council meeting. I didn't know what was going on. Anyways. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay. All right, well, let me bring the presentation back up and we will keep moving. Okay, so now, I guess just to wrap that up, that's great. I will make the kind of adjustments we've talked about tonight. I will add them to the final draft. I would say if you have Arts Council members, if you have any lingering feedback or anything like that, see typos or anything like that, feel free to send them to me via email. If you could just send them by the end of the week, that would be very helpful. And then we'll get that final draft ready to go for the March meeting. So the next item, the next elements we're going to talk about are the public art project opportunities and the public art project timeline. So just again for the public record, so the project opportunities list and the public art project timeline are two key elements of this work plan. That opportunities list is really meant to be a dynamic list of public art opportunities that the list can be added to. It'll be reviewed on an ongoing basis. It might get really big sometimes if lots of ideas come in. It might shrink over time, but it's really meant to be just kind of the running list of opportunities that come forward to the city and the Arts Council that we can consider for future development, future implementation, that sort of thing. The public art project timeline is really that condensed, prioritized, smaller list that identifies the projects that will be recommended for development over the course of a 6-year planning horizon. So we're operating within 2025 to 2030 right now. We've put forth kind of the proposed timeline for you all to review based on a few different elements. But once that timeline is proposed, then it'll be recommended to the city council for implementation. And that again will happen through the biennial budget, the capital improvement program. So, nothing that's really put forward tonight or has been put forward from a project perspective has any funding attached to it yet. We'll start looking at the actual funding when we adopt or approve the timeline. But how do we get to the timeline? So we, on November 18th, you all participated in a project opportunities exercise. We presented the draft list of 26 initial project opportunities that we as staff had just at a high level evaluated against a variety of factors. And then the Arts Council participated in a dot exercise. You can see your some snaps from that exercise on your screen now. We asked you for each opportunity on the list to vote on whether to keep it on the list, remove it from the list, or elevate it to the public art project timeline. I know a couple council members weren't able to participate in the exercise in person, but thank you so much to you all for sending your evaluations afterwards. So we were able to get input from every Arts Council member, as well as Councilmember Weinberg, who is our council liaison, and he participated in the exercise as well. So you can see the pink dots keep on the list, orange dots remove from the list, or green dots elevate to the project timeline. And then through this exercise, we also identified some opportunities that were either not really suitable for the list. So like they actually aren't public art projects, so they shouldn't be kept here. Or were better suited for other sections of the plan. So, you know, maybe hosting a local art auction to raise money for public art is a great idea, but it probably fits better in the fundraising section, for example. And so here are the results of that exercise. We're going to talk in a few minutes about the public art project timeline, but 7 of the opportunities on the project opportunities list were elevated to the timeline. 5 opportunities were removed and incorporated into a different section of the plan. 5 opportunities were combined with others, so like multiple mural projects condensed into one kind of overarching mural project for now. And then 5 opportunities were removed completely from this list. Again, if they weren't public art projects, we kind of took them off the list for now. And then this is kind of the result. So in your packet, Exhibit 3 includes the kind of results of the project opportunities exercise line by line, including, you know, what the votes were and what the subsequent action was. This is included as Exhibit 4. It's the updated project opportunities list. And, you know, this is the one we're putting forward right now to recommend as including with the final plan document. So I'm going to ask for feedback again, but just at the top, a reminder again. So, you know, this project opportunities list is a running list. I think when I went through the exercise after taking your votes and starting to move things around and whittle things down, I was surprised that we went from 26 opportunities down to 6. But again, some have already been elevated to the project timeline. Some were moved to other parts of the plan. And really, you know, this is an evolving list or a running list, whatever you want to call it. Like there's space within the work plan where we will be adding to this list on a pretty consistent basis, you know, whether that's doing a call for project ideas to the community, whether it's, you know, Arts Council members seeing a cool idea in another city and sending it to staff. Like this is not meant to be, you know, the only list of projects opportunities there will ever be. This is just the starting point now that we've gone through the first exercise of really compiling ideas and then trimming them down and prioritizing them. So I'm going to stop there again and ask for any feedback, comments, questions about the updated project opportunities list.
I just want to say again, Sarah, thank you for all of your work on this. And it was really nice to see this and to look through and to see, you know, where things have moved to, and also just to see how we all feel about things overall as an arts council. I thought this was a fabulous thing that you did at the last meeting, and it was really nice to see how it all came together and, you know, is going to possibly be implemented or not. And so I mean, this seems to be, from my perspective, a really cohesive and well done plan, and it seems to be what the Art Council wants to move forward with. I appreciate you, you know, saying that there are there's always room for other opportunities. I think that's important for us to remember that, we never know what's going to come up. I did note that you had the Stacks project that we had talked about. Just wanted to make sure everyone noted that that is no longer and available. The donation is no longer there in case anybody missed that. But otherwise, I mean, it seems like we're ready to, kind of move forward with this list. I would open it up to the rest of the Arts Council for any comments or feedback.
Yeah.
Yes, Suzanne?
Yeah, so I guess I'm just kind of confused between Exhibit 3 and Exhibit 4. Exhibit 3, I think you had up previously, which was our dot exercise, and which then you compiled for us. And the number one thing that came out was the Greta Hackett
Mhm.
outdoor planning. And the number 2 was mural at Aubrey Davis Park. So in Exhibit 4, it's
Oh.
refresh town banners and, other things. I'm confused what the difference is between the two lists, or what happened there.
Yeah, so Exhibit 3, that's the list of all of the project opportunities we evaluated with that dot exercise. And they added, they aren't included, I didn't include the columns in this one, but I can certainly go back and update things. So you'll see in Exhibit 3 that it should have a column calling out like what the votes were. And I guess at the top of it, Exhibit 3, the projects are not listed in ascending or descending order or anything like that. They were kept in the same order of like, this is how project ideas came in, and that's how they were listed. So in the column that says, there should be a column that says the results. So it's like 5 keep, 5 elevate, all of that. And then there's another column that says the action. So you should see for the Greta Hackett activation plan, the action was, I renamed it, and then I elevated it to the public art project timeline. I think for mural at Aubrey Davis Park, I think I combined it with other mural projects and elevated it to the timeline. So there are projects on there. If you look at the subsequent action, that last column that say like, oh, removed because not donation no longer viable, like the Stacks project, or
I'm solid on that list, and I understand.
Are you wondering why Greta Hackett's not on the second
I'm wondering
list?
why Greta Hackett's
Yeah.
not on the other list.
I think that was the clarifier. We have refresh banners, art making. So yeah, I didn't even realize that it wasn't thank you for that catch.
It's gone because it's on the public art project timeline. So you all wanted to elevate Greta Hackett to that prioritized list of what we're going to do. This list is really just the repository of the ideas. So as more ideas come in, they'll be added to this list, evaluated again, at a high level again against all these various elements. And then throughout the year, staff will come to the Arts Council and say, okay, 10 projects came through this year, project ideas came through, here's where they landed on the project opportunities list with all of these different elements that we evaluated them against. And we'll kind of go through the same like a same kind of mini exercise. Okay, well, do you want to keep it on the list? Do you want to remove it from the list? Or do you want to elevate it to the public art project timeline for implementation?
So Sarah, just to clarify, what you're saying is that Exhibit 4 is a list of things that have not made it to the timeline. Those are ongoing opportunities that we can explore in the future, which is why Greta Hackett's not on there, because that's on the actual timeline.
That.
Oh, okay, then I'm not sure.
What I don't understand is how, moving forward, just communicating with the public, does the Exhibit 3 sort of fade away and we just move forward with Exhibit 4?
Mm.
And
yeah.
And that's like what's resonating in the community for down the road.
Yes, that's correct. So Exhibit 3 is really just the results of the exercise to show you how we got from November 18th to today in terms of decisions that staff are proposing for how to move things up to the project art timeline or public art project timeline.
Exhibit 4 would be in the plan.
Correct.
Would it be confusing to continue with exhibit 3, or exhibit 3 is going to disappear?
Exhibit 3 will disappear. This will be the last time you see exhibit 3.
Got it.
Great. Okay, project opportunities. I just feel like maybe, I don't want to get too wordy, but somehow, maybe more descriptive title or something, evolving list like you do write updated 1/8, to be revised every year, or I don't know. If I'm the public looking at this, I don't even understand it. I've been involved.
I think the idea behind it is it's a living document, right?
Right.
So,
Mhm.
I mean, is it more as project ideas come in, then they can get added and then we review them as we go on? Is that what you're,
Yeah.
how we,
I'm just
the process
trying
for
to
how we review
say,
new ideas, or?
Does the public understand that this is the list as of January 8th? And I guess it's in the document explaining how it came about. Also, I do have one other comment on that, the Refresh Town Center banners. I think we discussed it, and I think I had a consensus from the council that I would like to consider under other considerations, themed business signs, business identification signs. So banners, to me, I said it last time, are a little bit cluttery. There might be an opportunity to do a cohesive signage throughout the town center that shows characteristics of Mercer Island, and maybe eliminate some of the A-board signs, and just I've seen it in other communities where every business has a sign out hanging from their awning, and they're all similar. They oftentimes have, if it's a dentist, they might have a symbol of a dentist or a tooth on it. If it's a dog veterinary place, they might have a puppy dog on it. It's just kind of fun, and it's a way to identify businesses. And I think I'm always kind of a fun and function, not just adding layers of stuff downtown. So I don't know if anyone can support me on adding just that comma themed business signs or something like that.
I mean, I think it's good feedback. My only consideration would be that it didn't make it to elevation, right? So it's not something we're looking at addressing at this moment. So do you not feel
So
that?
that would be part of, it's Refresh Town Center banners. It would be under that category.
Like a subcategory?
Yeah, I'm not saying add a new item. I'm just saying we did discuss the town center banners. And I just would like to put a little at the end
I
of
see
that
what you're saying,
line
under
where it
other
says banners were
considerations.
installed in 2018, may want to consider something more permanent than vinyl banners if do a project like this again. And I would say including a consistent sign,
Mhm.
style for the town center.
Yeah. And the other consideration is electronic signs that can be changed and adjusted when, so that like if you do an electronic sign, then it's promoting summer celebration when summer celebration's about to come
Well,
up, things like
I'm
that.
thinking of.
But I think maybe
That's
not picturing
probably
in the
not-
same
No, I'm
space.
just saying, when you drive down the street, you're like, where's the veterinary office?
Mhm.
But you see the little puppy dog, and then you see, oh, look, there's a new tea store. It has a teacup. It's just kind of a fun way. I've seen it done in other communities.
I'm fine with adding a note about that to other considerations. Would that be something that we could do? Sorry, Daniel. Yes, sir. I just saw your hand.
All right, no problem. So, I mean, yeah, I just have a couple comments here. I mean, I'm fine adding that. I'm fine not adding that. I personally, I'm not too concerned about what this says, because I guess I would clarify my understanding of this document is this is the list of the projects that we're not working on. Is that so? Like, I mean, that's sort of my interpretation. So I think we can put whatever we're not working on as whatever we want here, because that will be a decision for someone, whoever, if someone decides to work on this, 5 years from now or something, because we're basically defining the next 5 years worth of projects. So none of the projects on that screen, we're not anticipating any of those are going to get worked on until 2031. That's my interpretation of it. Is that, Sarah, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So I'm not overly concerned about what we say on any of these projects that we're not working on, but I do think that, I mean, I will say I personally was a little bummed that the outcome of this project is that we only have 6 ideas that we're not working on, because it seems like we should have had, I don't know, well, I mean, if these are the only ideas that we have, then these are the only ideas we have. But I did say in email, and I'll just express this to the rest of the group, that like I shared Suzanne's confusion when I was looking at this list of like what's going on with this list, because what we have are, you said we've elevated 7 ideas that we are working on, and those are not on the same list of the projects that we're not working on. And I think it might be clearer to the public if we had one list of the 13 projects that have not actually been, like, we're not doing them yet. Like, we haven't contracted anything for those, and we could consider including like a status on the 13 projects, and the 6 that are here on the we're not working on list, we could say these might be considered in the future, but we're not working on them. And then these other 7 are things that we are working on. And part of the reason I say that is because last time we discussed that there were only going to be like 2 or 3 projects that we thought we'd get elevated, and somehow 7 got elevated. So it's unclear to me if, like, is it realistic that all 7 of these are actually going to get completed? And then the other part of it that I am concerned about is that, well, we've elevated, for example, on the murals, is that we're saying, like, let's do a mural project with the high school and let's figure out a location. But I mean, there was a specific recommendation from a community member not to do a mural project, but to do a mural at the lid. And so I don't think we've actually elevated a mural at the lid. We've elevated a mural project somewhere on the island. And it's unclear to me if a mural happened at the pickleball courts, does that mean that the mural at the lid is lost? Because I see that still as a potential future project that we're not necessarily currently working on. But for the 2031 Arts Council wants to consider that, I think it's a good idea that we could keep on the list.
So, you're not saying you're saying a mural at the lid as opposed to the stacks. You're not, you're
Those
talking
are
about.
two different
Just
projects.
making sure. I'm clarifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm talking about the mural down by the basketball hoops on
Okay,
the
that's what I thought. I
wall.
just wanted to clarify for
Yeah.
my own sake. Also, I have to say that I was driving through Bellevue the other day, and I saw a new mural on one of the buildings, and it's awful. And so it just goes to show that quality sometimes is more important than quantity. Just throwing that out there. You'll see
I would
it.
throw in on the topic of the mural as well. And I don't know exactly where in the document, but when it's discussed, I still think, I think the purpose was a community art project to involve the high school students, to involve community. It wasn't so much mural here or mural there. But I do want to, if possible, with support of you all, consider that option, it being wrapping the utility boxes. So citing a mural and getting an artist to do it and going through that whole process, that's a process. But another process is working with high school kids, and maybe there's a contest and a variety of designs come forward that we can then wrap utility boxes with those designs. So and I think we talked about that too, and I think that got left off.
And would that fit into community art making project?
That could be I thought it would be under the community mural project.
Right.
I'm just
I
saying.
have the wrong one pulled up now.
That mural could be at Luther Burbank, at the pickleball courts, it could be somewhere else, or it could also be in many places.
Right.
And can I just clarify that there were, in the original exercise, there were 2 separate mural things. There was the community mural project, and there was specifically a mural at Aubrey Davis. There was a community member who only wants a mural at Aubrey Davis and is not interested in a community mural project. It's specifically saying she thinks that we should have a mural in a specific location at the basketball courts. She's willing to help fundraise and pitch for, but it was site specific. Separately, we have a community mural making project, and those 2 have gotten combined in the elevation. And that's part of my concern, is that if we elevate the community mural project, that's fine. I'm not suggesting we need to elevate the Aubrey Davis mural, but I think that was a separate idea that I just wouldn't want to lose that idea.
And to that point, I think it can encompass that idea, but that property doesn't belong to the city of Mercer Island, or, you know, I mean, it's a very complicated situation, which, you know,
Yeah.
if a community mural project, I mean, it's wide open. So I think that we're going to get lots of ideas.
I'm not saying we need to elevate the project at Aubrey Davis. I'm just suggesting that we should keep it on the list so the 2031 Arts Council still
Okay, you
has
could
the
put it
idea.
Exhibit.
Daniel, what I'm seeing on here is the Luther Burbank Sports Court mural. I'm not seeing the Aubrey Davis one, but maybe I'm just missing it. There's
On
murals
which, in Exhibit 3, it's not item number 2.
Oh, so there were 3 different murals there were 3 different mural projects on
There were a lot of mural projects.
there were a lot of so it makes sense to me. I mean, it makes sense to me to combine it and then flesh it out once we actually get to doing the project. That makes sense in my brain, how you've combined things. But there's obviously concerns about those. I wonder if it is the best use of our time to discuss them in this meeting, or if it's something that we would want to maybe send emails about.
Well, I think it's fine. It is now. I mean,
Okay.
Well, I mean, sorry to interrupt you, Chair, but I was just going to say, this discussion's been really helpful because, again, you know, this was the project timeline, elevating that exercise and everything was just kind of the first pass. And I am hearing a couple of things like we need to figure out, we staff need to go back and figure out probably a better way to communicate the information between, you know, differing between the projects that are really, really priorities versus projects that are possibilities down the line. And I'm already thinking about a couple of ways that we could probably communicate that information in a simpler way. I share your thought, Vice Chair Becker, about like, is it really realistic that we're going to do 7 projects in 5 years? It's not. I think that's part of the reason with the timeline. I was trying to kind of layer things of like, okay, well, we'll get through these 2 projects and then we can start the process for this next project kind of thing. So what I will do is, just in the interest of time, and I'm happy to hear other feedback as well, but I will commit to kind of revisiting both of these lists, not necessarily really moving everything around, or like going back to the drawing board with the exercise or anything like that. But I will go back to, these 2 different lists and think about a different way to present the information that would then be very easy to communicate to the public. Because I think, as you all are probably thinking too, like, these projects won't get done without public support. And so we need to start from the beginning to clearly articulate what your priorities are and how we're going to engage the community in getting the projects done.
Thank you for that, Sarah. I think it sounds like it would be valuable to flesh these out a little bit more. Is that something that you would want to send us ahead of time of the special meeting in March that we could give feedback on?
Yes, I will definitely commit to getting it to you well before the packet is distributed.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. More feedback on that? Oh, okay. I've completely lost where we are at this point.
Well, I can still, because that was a good discussion, is there any other, separate of like how the information's been communicated, or what projects or elevator app, anything like that? Is there anything else about the project opportunities list or the public art project timeline that you all want to share now? Otherwise, I will follow up in an email kind of summarizing this and talking about next steps.
I am comfortable moving forward and going over, seeing what you come back with basically and giving feedback to that. I don't have anything right at this moment, but I would definitely open it up to other Arts Council members if they have any other thoughts or comments about the way the information is being presented, or any questions or concerns at this time.
I sent a couple of comments to Sarah. I mean, I think for the 6-year work plan for art in public places, having a table of contents would really help lay,
Yeah,
maybe even address some of these things we just talked about. So if I, kind of give a framework of what's,
yeah.
Do you remember which one that was? Which number?
there isn't a table of contents.
No, on the 6-year work plan. Which exhibit was it?
It is Exhibit 2.
Thank you. I had
And
to.
that's a great segue, Councilmember Scone. So with because I do want to, I know some people have time constraints tonight. I want to make sure that I get you all out. I'm going to go ahead and get into that. This is the last element that we need to talk through some feedback on. So again, the work plan draft, it's Exhibit 2, and it's updated based on all the discussions we've had over the past few months. All the updates are included in red. So, the public art project timeline and high-level project descriptions, just mentioned that we're going to come back with an evolved version of that in the project opportunities list. There were some edits or additions to the funding section, the public engagement section, and then the collection care section. Those were all based on the project opportunities exercise we did. And then, as you mentioned, Councilmember Scone had some good ideas about just sort of general formatting comments. I think it's a great idea to add a table of contents. We will definitely do that. And then she had also recommended moving the terms and definitions and public art project types pieces to the end of the document in an appendix, which we can certainly do as well. And then we also received questions or comments from folks on individual sections, and I just wanted to run through these very quickly and provide a little more context. I think given where we are tonight, we can definitely take more feedback between now and the end of the month. So to make sure that we can get some final edits in before, or final requests for edits in before the updated draft will go out to you for that March meeting. But just to run through the questions we've received so far. So Councilmember Scone, you had the question in the funding section about how contributions to the 1% fund are identified. You said we identify contributions for 23, 24, and 25 to 26. Would it not be more helpful to state the amount in the fund as of January 2025 and identify projects for the 6-year period of this plan? Or at least drop the 2023 completed table. And so I just wanted to give more context for that. So the information that's included about the 1% fund in the document will also be updated to provide kind of a rolling account of the current fund. We'll aim to update it at least annually, and this is partially because of the way contributions are calculated. So we calculate our 1% contributions on the qualifying capital projects at the end of construction. So when we do a construction project, we have a construction budget, we have a general idea, an estimate of what the 1% contribution is going to be. Sometimes the construction budget changes, it fluctuates. And so we really don't finalize that contribution until the end of the project, until construction has been completed. And sometimes that happens, over the course of 3 years. Sometimes that happens in a completely different fiscal year. So there is always going to be a little bit of a lag between what contributions are estimated of coming in based on projects that are scheduled for a specific year and when they are actually finalized and transferred to the fund. So like 23 is included in there because at the time we started working on this document, it was the most up-to-date completed year of contributions. All of the transfers were completed at the end of I think the first quarter of 2024. So I like the idea of making sure that like at the beginning of the year, we have we have what the fund balance is on that date and time, you know, January 1, what the fund balance is, and incorporating that into the plan. But I also think it would still be helpful to continue keeping a running account, both within this document as kind of a public document, but then also updating you all on probably a quarterly basis or a semi-annual basis on where things stand with the fund to help support the long range planning. Does that provide a little more context for kind of what's included and how it'll be included going forward?
To me, it's just a lot of detail. Like, so then if I look at the 2023, then I'd have to wonder which ones of those amounts have been completed, are in the fund, or which ones are not completed and not in the fund. So
No, so the 2023 table is all completed and it's in the fund. So I agree that we need to add a number that shows the fund balance today.
and
But
you
that
as
2023 fund, that 2023 table, all of that money is in the fund balance today.
So would it be reasonable just to leave that 2023 out? I mean, to me, it just seems like a lot for again, like I'm saying, why do I need to know that if that money is all in the fund? Why do I need to take that much space on the page?
That's fair. I think I was erring on the side of giving you more transparency than less. So I'm open to whatever the rest of the Arts Council feels in terms of that kind of documentation. On our end, we'll still track it the same way, but whether or not it's presented to you, I'm hearing it may not be necessary.
Doesn't need to be in the planning document for at that level, but I think it is important to know what is in the fund, and also should, again, if the information is available, I think the funding information that is available through the planning period, which is 25 through 30, right, that should also show up there. We stop at 2026.
Yeah, and that is specifically tied to just the budget that has been adopted versus hasn't. The 6-year CIP it's a planning level document, and so we put the out years in there to help with our planning, but generally those out year amounts change. So I hesitated on, you know, including information about 27 to 2030 because there could be significant changes, and I don't necessarily want to make major plans depending on that money, relying on that money if it doesn't eventually materialize as the capital program evolves.
And then on the 2024 of all those projects, have all those funds been put into the account?
No, those are projects. So, you know, they are ones that by the first or second quarter of this year, we will have confirmed which projects were fully completed and what was transferred. The project amounts that are in there right now are the best estimate based on the construction budgets at the end of 2024, but there's still potential that it could evolve.
Okay.
So the total 1% contribution for 2023 is listed, and then for 2024. So what is the total overall? Is it those two numbers combined, or?
It's not those two numbers combined, and that is one thing that I meant to check on today, and I forgot to look up the total fund balance right now. So I will after this meeting. I think at the end of 2024, it was around $167,000, but I need to go in and confirm that.
Okay, great. Jonathan, did you have a comment?
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, I have to leave.
Oh yeah, we're gonna wrap up pretty quickly here. Did you
Okay,
run out?
I do have to leave.
Okay, and I know
right.
Daniel had to head out as well.
And so I just wanted to thank Sarah for all of her hard work, and I look forward to voting on this document in the near future. So we'll see you later. Bye.
You have a good
to see
evening,
you,
Daniel.
Jonathan.
You also saying goodbye, or do you have like 5 more minutes?
I've got 5 more minutes.
Okay, my only I was actually gonna say that I appreciate the I appreciate the 2023 contributions listed just because I think it gives us a, some understanding of the previous ones. So I don't know that it has to be removed from the document. It would just be nice to have an overall and then have it broken down so it's more clear, I think, for the total overall budget moving forward. Is that reasonable to you?
Fine.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Or anything else about the document as of right now? Otherwise, I think we can look forward to some emails from Sarah. She always likes to give us homework.
Thank you so much for the great discussion again tonight. And I echo everyone else, what the chair and vice chair said as well. I just need to thank you all for the hard work that you've put into this over the last year. This is not an easy exercise. We as a city have not necessarily embarked on a public art planning process like this before. So I really appreciate you all staying engaged in the process, and we are in the home stretch, and I will follow up via email and also see you all in March.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I will also just note, I really enjoyed your terms and definitions section. That made me happy. So I'm glad it's going to stay in there. Just wherever you decide to put it is great. So thank you, Sarah. We will see you in March. And that leads us right into our other business and absences and counselors who are still with us. Any planned absences for our next special meeting, which is now scheduled for Wednesday, March 19th. Fabulous. And we were all here this evening, aside from JB, who has joined another commission. We want to thank him for all of his work and contributions that he's done throughout this planning process. And I'm sure we'll cross paths with him again. And are there any other comments, questions, or concerns before we end the meeting? All right. There being no other business to come before the Arts Council, the time is now 7:02 and the meeting is adjourned. Counselors, is that when I do it? I never use the gavel. I don't know. Counselors, please stay seated until city staff has terminated the Zoom broadcast. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us.